Long before the time of the Pharaohs, the primordial ocean surged around the world. But what if I told you there was more to this watery abyss than met the eye? What if I told you it was home to a giant turtle? And not just any turtle, mind you, but one so large it supported the entire weight of the heavens on its shell. Welcome to my channel, and today let's explore ancient Egypt together. We'll begin at the dawn of human history, when monsters roamed the earth and traveled through millennia to the time of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. We will see the rise and fall of empires, the construction of pyramids and temples, the conquests of Alexander the Great and the fall of Alexandria, and much, much more. Now let's go back to the beginning. At the edge of the primordial ocean, the king Ra sailed his boat across the sky each day, bringing light and warmth to the world below. He was accompanied by his son, the king Khonsu, and together they watched over the Egyptians who lived along the banks of the Nile River. But Ra grew weary of his daily journey, so he asked Khonsu to take over for him. And every night, Khonsu would sail his boat into the underworld, battling dangerous creatures and overcoming great obstacles until he reached the city of the dead. There he would restore order and bring back the sun, ensuring that Ra could rest and recharge for his journey the next day. But one night, while sailing through the darkness, Khonsu encountered a terrible dragon with 7 heads and 7 tails. Its breath was poisonous, and its eyes burned like hot coals, and no matter how hard Khonsu tried, he could not defeat it. So he called upon his brother Amun, the king of gold, for help. Amun came and slew the dragon, freeing Khonsu and restoring order to the underworld. And as a reward for his bravery, Amun gave Khonsu a precious gift, the key to the eastern sky. With this gift, Khonsu could now sail his boat into the eastern sky and bring gold to the world before sunrise. And so every morning we see the rising sun. This myth is just one of many stories that were passed down through generations of ancient Egyptians, stories that explained how the world began, how nature worked, and how humans should live their lives. These stories were not just myths, though. They were part of a rich and complex culture that lasted for over 3,000 years. To understand how these myths and legends came about, we need to go back even further to prehistoric times. Let's fast forward to around 6000 BC, when the first humans settled along the Nile River. This region, which we call Egypt today, was one of the first in the world to experience the benefits of agriculture. As the climate became drier and more hospitable, people could grow crops and raise livestock, which led to the development of villages and eventually cities. By 4000 BC, Egypt had become one of the most densely populated regions in the world. As the population grew, so did the need for organization and leadership, and that's when the first pharaohs emerged. But unlike the pharaohs of later centuries, these early rulers were not considered divine. They were simply the most powerful members of their communities. However, as time went on, the pharaohs' power grew and grew until they became the undisputed rulers of Egypt. One of the first major periods in Egyptian history was the Old Kingdom, which lasted from around 2680 BC to 2180 BC. During this time, Egypt was divided into several small kingdoms, each ruled by a pharaoh. The capital city was Memphis, and the pharaohs were considered the embodiment of Horus, the sky god. Their tombs were built in the shape of pyramids, which symbolized the rays of the sun, god Ra. Some of the most famous pyramids, such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, were built during this period. The Old Kingdom also saw the construction of the first great temples, such as the Temple of Saqqara. However, towards the end of the Old Kingdom, Egypt experienced a period of instability known as the First Intermediate Period. This lasted from around 2180 BC to 2055 BC, and it was marked by civil wars, economic decline, and social unrest. But in 2055 BC, a new dynasty of pharaohs emerged, and Egypt entered a golden age known as the Middle Kingdom. During the Middle Kingdom, Egypt was united under the rule of the 12th dynasty, and the capital city was moved to Thebes. The pharaohs were considered the embodiment of Osiris, the god of the underworld, and they were seen as divine kings who brought order to the land. During this time, Egypt prospered and expanded its influence throughout the Levant and Nubia. However, as the Middle Kingdom came to an end, Egypt once again fell into a period of instability known as the Second Intermediate Period. This lasted from around 1786 BC to 1550 BC, and it was marked by the invasion of Egypt by the Hyksos, a group of foreign rulers who controlled the eastern Nile Delta. Despite these setbacks, Egypt was on the brink of entering its most glorious period yet, the New Kingdom. This era lasted from around 1550 BC to 1070 BC, and it was marked by the reign of some of the most powerful pharaohs in history. The New Kingdom began with the reign of Ahmose I, who drove the Hyksos out of Egypt and reunited the country. His successors, including Thutmose III, Hatshepsut and Akhenaten, expanded Egypt's borders and built magnificent monuments. The empire stretched from the Levant to Nubia and even into parts of Asia. However, as the New Kingdom came to an end, Egypt began to decline. The once mighty empire was weakened by internal strife and external threats. In 1157 BC, Egypt was conquered by the Libyans, and in 1070 BC, it was conquered by the Nubians. This period of decline lasted for almost 200 years, until Egypt was once again reunited by a native ruler. In 867 BC, Egypt was conquered by Assyria, and in 700 BC, it was conquered by the new Babylonian Empire. However, Egypt was never fully subdued by these empires, and it retained its independence. In 664 BC, Egypt was conquered by the Assyrians, but it soon gained its independence once more. In 525 BC, Egypt was conquered by the Persians under the rule of Cambyses II, but it remained relatively autonomous. When Alexander the Great arrived in Egypt in 332 BC, he was greeted as a liberator. The Egyptians had endured Persian rule for over a century, and they were eager for a change. Alexander was quick to capitalize on this sentiment, and he established a new capital city, Alexandria, in 331 BC. This marked the beginning of a new era in Egyptian history, the Greco-Roman period. During this time, Egypt was ruled by a series of foreign powers, including the Ptolemaic Kingdom, Rome, and eventually the Byzantine Empire. Despite the change in rulers, Egypt continued to thrive. It remained one of the most prosperous regions in the world, and it played a vital role in the Mediterranean trade network. Alexandria became one of the largest and most diverse cities in the ancient world, and it was home to people from all over the Mediterranean. However, in 30 BC, Egypt was annexed by Rome and became a province of the Roman Empire. This marked the end of the Greco-Roman period and the beginning of the Arab conquest of Egypt. In 640 AD, Egypt was conquered by the Rashidun Caliphate, and it soon became a part of the Islamic world. Over the next few centuries, Alexandria declined, and the Egyptian provinces became fragmented. However, in the 10th century, Egypt was reunited under the rule of the Ikhshidid dynasty. This marked the beginning of a new era in Egyptian history, the medieval period. During this time, Egypt was ruled by a series of dynasties, including the Tulunids, the Ikhshidids, the Fatimids, and the Ayyubids. Despite the political instability, Egypt continued to prosper. It remained an important center of trade and scholarship, and it played a vital role in the Crusades. In 1174, Egypt was conquered by the Ayyubid dynasty, which was founded by Saladin. Saladin was a brilliant military leader, and he successfully defended Egypt against the Crusaders. However, in 1250, Egypt was hit by a devastating earthquake that killed hundreds of thousands of people. This led to the decline of the Ayyubid dynasty, and in 1260, Egypt was conquered by the Mamluk dynasty. The Mamluks were originally slaves from Central Asia, but they were freed and trained as soldiers. They quickly rose to power and became the ruling class of Egypt. The Mamluk Sultanate lasted for about 2 centuries, and during this time, Egypt enjoyed a brief period of stability and prosperity. However, in 1517, Egypt was conquered by the Ottoman Empire, and it became a part of the Ottoman dynasty. So the story of ancient Egypt is a long and complicated one. It is a story of kings and monsters, of pharaohs and pyramids, of empires and conquests. It is a story that has captured the imaginations of people for centuries, but as the ancient Egyptians themselves believed, the story doesn't end there. For they believed that after death, the soul would embark on a perilous journey through the underworld, facing many challenges before reaching the field of reeds, a paradise where the righteous would spend eternity. And we, the viewers, are about to start our own perilous journey through the mysterious world of ancient Egypt. We will face many challenges, but we will also discover amazing things along the way. Our goal is to reach the field of reeds, where we can learn everything about ancient Egypt. But we cannot do this alone. We need your support. If you want to join us on our journey, then subscribe and press the bell button so you never miss an episode. Together, we will uncover the secrets of ancient Egypt and bring the field of reeds to life. So, are you ready to begin our journey?